Elliot, you're muted. And talofa love, everybody. Great to see you.
Yeah, no, I do apologise for that, team. My apologies for that. Basically, we did have a bit of a heavy video there. We made sure that it was not one which would show what happened, and I'm sure some of you will know what it was, and we'll discuss what it was as well. But tonight will probably be a little bit more heavier than usual, no doubt. But yeah, so Liao, thank you for joining us. Liao's coming to us from Napier. She's helping out with the recovery effort down there. So yeah, really great to have you here. And of course, we've got Fuiawai Lili Alalima. Fuiawai, talofa.
Talofa lava, le paia mana mamalu, and whainu whaatasi mai le nei afiafi, ia le tātou pokalami māsani lava le nei o le Talanoa Sa'o, ia usi mai le mai mua ma le silasila. Warm Pacific salutations to everyone, and my name is Fuiawai Lili Alalima. Welcome to another episode of Talanoa Sa'o, or Straight Talk.
Yep, awesome. So before we get started, it's quite important for us to start in the way that is proper with a prayer. Team, I hope it's okay. I might do the prayer this time around. I do apologize. I hope I'm not being selfish and taking that. So Dear Lord, thank you so much for giving us the breath of life.
Thank you.
Father, we have had some really horrific stuff going on. Recently, we heard this morning of the horrific tragedy, the murders, and we just pray that you just lovingly fold that family of the little children in your heart. We pray that their lives, that their souls are being brought into your loving embrace as well. Father, the pain, it cannot be imagined, but we just pray for your love and blessings on the family and for all those who have been affected at this time. So thank you very much for that, Lord, in Jesus' name, amen.
Amen.
So yeah, just for everyone there, absolutely, thank you so much, Vaughan. Yep, fair point. Just let you know, we did want to make sure though that we were not going to be putting that in any sense. We were specific. We wanted to make sure that there was no sound and that there was no, any video of that area there. But fair point. We should have probably let people know that we were going to put up a little bit of that. So yes, just to some of you there, we made sure that there was no sound. There was no sound in that. All right. So when you weren't hearing it, you're absolutely right. But please let us know if there is no sound currently. Of course, we'll see if we can fix anything like that. So yeah, just Pomare to everyone. Really good to have you here. That, of course, was the piece of garbage who early morning in New Zealand time basically went into a Christian school, and he has murdered, or she has murdered, we're not sure. It's a transgender person. The transgender person has gone on to murder people, including 3 9-year-old children. And this is in Nashville. And it was just absolutely horrific. And this is going to be a pretty hard topic to sort of navigate without us sounding in a certain way. Because obviously, there is a philosophical link between that and what happened on Saturday, as well as some things that have happened before in the past, and we need to confront it. Now, team, for myself, I think that we need to remember that there are a great deal of transgender folk who don't want any part of this. They don't want to be around it. They just want to live their lives quietly and away. And the kids that I've worked with over the years, beautiful kids, love them all, as well as some really respected people I know who are older than me, who are transgender. Got nothing but love for them. But we need to talk about, I think, something that is really happening that we've been warning about, but the warnings have been ignored. So anyway, Liao, what do you know about what happened this morning? Do you know anything there? What are your thoughts, feelings about this?
I'm really sad that that it was a Christian school where you would want to feel safe and be in a place where you don't have to have have huge protective areas. You know what's going to happen now is that they're going to have security. They're going to have put up huge security gates. This is the kind of thing that it's going to outplay from somebody who just decided, whether they've been gaming, whether they've had addictions, whatever it is, to outplay whatever was in their mind. And because it's very it's quite raw for us because of what we went through on the weekend. So to see that and to see, the type of person that was willing to go and kill after, lots of yelling in the weekend around, no, they're not violent, no, we're not this, and even the tweets that have come out about, no, there's no violence in the transgender movement. To see this happen in real time is greatly disturbing to me.
Yeah, no, fair enough. Fuaba, what are your thoughts there about about the children dying in that Christian school, the transgender person who's there? Do you have any thoughts around that situation?
Yeah, I don't think there's anyone who can actually watch that footage and not feel a certain way. We're all human, and we all have feelings, regardless as to how you think or which side of the argument you're on. if you see something like this, whenever you see anyone walking around with a gun trying to shoot someone intentionally, I mean, that's a murderous act. And, we need to call that out wherever we see that.
Mm.
So, it's sad that these people have decided to use this as a way of resolving um, whatever in their minds is the issue. And uh, when I see this, all I can say is that I feel, I don't know, I feel kind of this is worse than a horror movie. Just watching that whole thing and knowing what's about to unfold.
Yeah, yeah, well said. I mean, you're absolutely right, and I think that was the big one is knowing, watching that video recording, and knowing what transpired within minutes of that, within seconds of that stuff. Absolutely, that piece of garbage, actually ended up in getting basically shot and killed by the law. And I think that again, it's really shocking to see how they engage in that. The person name was Audrey Hale. The New Zealand mainstream media, of course, have done a shockingly bad area of trying to sort of hide elements of pronouns and things like that, whereas there's more honesty in the overseas media. The person was, I believe, some sort of artist or something like that, where they're trying to bring up that they were something or other. But we are still waiting to hear back from things. The preliminary results is that the transgender person was very, very angry by the child protection policies that had come out, the policies that were there to protect children from being accessed by mostly transgender ideologues, and also the puberty blockers, the mastectomies, the castration, the really shocking sort of stuff that were there. Well, that person really was trying to angle it that way. And it's just disgusting. It was just disgusting. Karen Rush has brought up something here. Why some trans are angry, something to do with the meds are given, or mental health issues. The fact is that transgenderism is also known as gender identity disorder or dysphoria, and it is a psychological condition. There is a mental illness element to it, and the studies have shown that often the transgender persons will also carry other mental health issues. So it's usually compounded. There's usually multiple links in there, and that could attest to why it is. But the often we use the word humorously, unhinged, but in actual fact you find that it's actually very, very angry to the point of being quite unbalanced anyway. So let's just hope we'll keep on top of that, and we'll keep focusing on what's that going on. We'll bring you updates as we can. In the meantime, let's have a chat about what happened on the weekend. Liao, you were right in there, of course. You were discussing. We had a special episode on Sunday to discuss this. For those who were not there, are you able to sort of give a real brief sort of overview as to what happened to you on that day? And in fact, maybe even give us a little peek into tomorrow.
Yeah, sure. So I was there to report, obviously, I wanted to actually genuinely hear what she had to say, which I think I hold true to those values myself. And so being able to come there and had no idea how big this was going to be, arrived and just did a bit of filming. There's so much noise that I thought actually I'll just start to wind this live down, and finish it off. And so I walked across the way, and I saw a lovely young lady who we were going to be interviewing tomorrow. And I saw her top, which just basically was a black and white top that said woman, biological female. Okay. So I walked up to her and I said, show me your t-shirt, just as a, part of that's what I wanted to be able to see and hear. And at the back it said "Born This Way," which I thought was really cool. Until we started hearing the noise. Oh my gosh, when the whistle started and we were completely surrounded. I was like, oh my gosh, did I draw this attention? I'm not sure. But then they just got louder and louder, started yelling at us, telling us to leave. And we're like, no, we're not leaving until the police came. And the police were like, they were really frustrated at this point. I think flustered is a good word to use for them. And they wanted to move us off, which I thought was quite amusing. And they said, please, can you leave the premises? And we were like, why? We have every right to be here. And they said, well, we can't guarantee your safety. So, after a
We
while,
can't guarantee your safety.
you can even hear it. You can hear it in my live, him saying that. Well, I'm sorry, we can't guarantee your safety. So, not that, not that they could anyway. But so because he was quite insistent, and there was another cop right next to him, we went, you know what? And for the sake of this mess that was getting louder and louder and bigger, I said to Renee, come on, let's go. Let's go. So we turned around and started heading our way back slowly. And in fact, one of my friends was watching. She said, I was wondering where you were. And I looked at him and I was like, why are you leading the pack? That's incredible. And then she realized what was happening. We were getting ushered out. I just want to make one point. At no point at all was I ever feeling afraid. So I felt
And why was that, Liao? Because I have a sneaky suspicion I know why. Why were you not feeling afraid?
Because I really felt God's presence around me. I feel like there were angels, but also there were some men too who walked by us. Trust me, it wasn't the police. Anyway, so they let us out, but that wasn't enough for them. Elliot, that wasn't enough. We had to keep moving, and all I was yelled at was, Nazis go home. I thought that was the funniest thing ever. I was like, does this face look like one of a Nazi? Like the opposite. The opposite.
What, you white supremacist?
Yeah.
Hey.
So I just, for me, wow. Just wow. I was really angry. All I thought of is in a playground when there's bullies pounding on somebody, the teacher comes along, grabs the bully and sends them to the office. And what the police did was they grabbed the victims and said, get out, for your safety. And all that did is it actually gave them power to be even more angry. It fed them because they were like, yes, there's somebody else we can get rid of. And again, out in the street, actually, it would have been good to have for you out on the street. They were trying to get rid of us there, and so the police were like, "Listen, can we escort you to your cars?" I was like, "Excuse me, we're out on the main." He said because they just started to crowd around us again. Huge crowds were coming because they had nothing else better to do. And again, he said, "Look, if you don't move, we can't guarantee your safety." I really wanted to say you couldn't guarantee it even if we were inside. To be fair, I would have felt safer if my 3 boys came. If I had brought my boys, they would have been, But anyway, so tomorrow night, I will be interviewing the very brave young lady and her mum, who is in crutches. They asked her as well. And also Karina, who's another reporter for Truth Bombs, she was there too, and right in the thick of it with where Posey Parker was. So she was in that little pen that they kept everybody in, where they busted down. So she's got a totally different angle again. So you guys need to tune in tomorrow because we'll have some really good conversations tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, that's awesome.
I try to minimize it, but it was quite a big story.
Beautiful, all good. Fuiawa, what did you know about Saturday, and what are your thoughts on Posey Parker? Should she be allowed to speak, or should we have actually yelled it out? Maybe you think she should have yelled it out there, Fuiawa, eh? But
Well,
what do you think also?
As you both remember, we were a part of a protest earlier. I think it was last year, though, huh? Or was it this year? It was last year, and and I went through that same thing. I actually saw the footage, and I was starting to get PTSD watching what was going on, because this is exactly what I was trying to explain to you guys, how these people were kind of bullying. I mean, I'm 6'3". I weigh like almost 300 and something pounds. I mean, I shouldn't put that out there, but okay. I'm just trying to give you guys an image of how big I am, and yet these people are still trying to bully me. I held these signs up saying, because they were chanting "My body, my choice," and I was holding up a sign that said "Love them both." I mean, there's nothing wrong with this sign. Nothing wrong with this sign, and yet people were trying to push me from the back, and then people in the front were trying to grab the sign that I was holding. And you guys remember, I went off and I started cussing them out. I'm a Christian. I have to admit that there are times when I get tested, and that was one of those times. And unfortunately, as far as I'm concerned, I was dropping F-bombs right and left, and the police were just standing around. They were doing nothing. They saw this whole thing going on, and they did nothing until I reacted. As soon as I reacted, they rushed over there because they were afraid that I was about to go off on somebody.
Yeah.
But, as in terms of them trying to push me around and all that kind of stuff, and they surrounded me, just like Leal mentioned. Yeah, all of a sudden I was cut off from everyone. These people, like 50, 60 people who were surrounding me, and they were trying to this whole mob mentality. And so what I have to say basically is that as I was watching what took place over there, I just got like total PTSD. I just remembered everything that took place that day. And in a way, Leal, I know that you were saying earlier that you're hoping that it would have been nice to have me over there. But I'll tell you something, it was probably a good thing that I wasn't there, because I probably would have actually smacked a couple of people. I was that close to actually putting my hands on people at the last protest. So it's a good thing I didn't go. But anyway, long story short, in terms of this is like the third time that I've seen something like this take place, because I remember, Elliot, you and I, we went to that protest where you actually stood up and then you started speaking, and you're talking about the fact that people needed to be able to have free speech, and and that was the first time that I was at a protest like that. And then the second time was the one that we went to last year. And then, of course, watching this, I would say it's exactly the same thing. They're trying to shut down people, just like they tried to do with Southern, what's her name, Lauren Southern. That was why you guys had that first protest. And then they're doing the same thing to Posey Parker. I mean, thank God they allowed her into the country, but shoot, she wasn't able to say a damn thing. So how is it that you're going to be able to argue against someone when you don't even know what it is that they stand for?
Yep. Yeah,
anyway.
No, well said. Very well said. Well said. I do so. Harry Jones has come and said, righteous indignation. Hey, awesome. And I think that's fair enough. I think it's really, really nice. Shaz has come out. They were abusive thugs. Yep, absolutely. Interesting enough, we've got ABC ZX1. Good to see you again. Why do these thuggish activists have the sympathy of mainstream media? That is actually quite an interesting question. I mean, the media has always been quite to the left, not hardcore though. They've just generally leaned to the left, whereas I think currently they are an entirely ideological machine currently. When you look at, I watched the interview with, I believe what's her name? The deputy leader of ACT, Beth Holbrook. And then you had Chloe Swarbrick, and then you had Matt's, whatever his name is, the homosexual dude from Breakfast or TV1 Breakfast. And basically they were just trying to gang up on Miss Holbrook, basically trying to say it was just singing songs and happiness and rainbows, when clearly the footage has gone worldwide, showing the abuse, the vitriol, the hatred, the assaults, the attacks, and the spitting and the souping of Posey Parker and those who were supportive, and even those who just seemed to find themselves in a disagreement with them. So the mainstream media have just absolutely aligned themselves, and it's not doing themselves any favor. I can't help but wonder if they've realized that they can't do anything about outside New Zealand, but they're just trying to foment. They're just basically trying to psychologically manipulate New Zealanders again, just like they did in the lockdown, in terms of the narrative here. I think they've done themselves a disservice. I think what last little remaining scraps of bedrock respect they had is now gone. I think it's all swept up now. I just don't believe them. I think that they are quite despicable. Anything they say. If they say it now, it's just simply, for example, court reports. Now I'm actually having to see if I can find it on in terms of a court decision. Something so simple as that. Now I am skeptical that they are even able to report even basic facts in a way that is not slanted. Leo, what are your thoughts about the media during all of this, and how do you feel about them?
You really want to ask me how I feel about the media? You know what? On a normal life, in a normal parallel universe, I would not be in media. I would have just loved to enjoy my life and have nothing to do with politics and nothing to do with media, and just live my life. But as it is, I am fully involved in both because I am angry. I am angry at the way things are happening so quickly, and how I saw a Twitter post a couple of days ago that said every time we submit to something, or we're complacent, or something like that, that it imprisons our children. Little by little, it imprisons them. So we are at this turning point in New Zealand society where we have no choice. Okay, say goodbye to your normal life. We need to start pushing back in so many ways, and it doesn't matter what way you push back. You need to find your lane and get on it, because we are facing some incredible evil that, unless you're willing to be brave and stand up and actually even die for it, then we what do we have for our children if they can't see us standing for things that we fully believe in and are passionate about? Then what kind of future do they have? So, in a parallel universe, I would be in none of this. And so mainstream media, we have given them the power. We have given mainstream media the power, that every time their hot air comes out with their rubbish, we take it. And New Zealand has taken it for years and years and years. And it's time to stop. We need to stop listening to their rubbish. We need to stop subscribing to them and start, actually looking and searching for truth. I didn't even
Well
mean
said.
to do that. I am.
Sick. Well said. Puyovo, what about yourself? Sure, the mainstream media are trustworthy people who are only in it to give balanced reporting and remove their own bias from it. What are your thoughts?
Well, I think that boat has sailed a long time ago in terms of the mainstream media being trustworthy. This is the reason why we have alternative media. This is why we have citizen journalists. This is the reason why we have Talanoa Sa'o, because the mainstream media is not going to give it to you straight. In fact, the thing that's interesting is that while we're discussing this tonight, I thought it was interesting that I watched some of the stuff on TV One News and how they covered this, and how they were reporting Marama Davidson's response to whatever, and all of these comments that she made, and they were making it out like Posey Parker was the bad person, and that everyone over there had a right to do what they were doing. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that people in New Zealand and people in any part of the world would actually think that it's okay to give a pass for what took place. No, you can't give a pass for something like that. I remember what Ronald Reagan said. You guys remember I gave that presentation on Anzac Day, and I quoted Ronald Reagan, the former president of the United States, who rest in peace. He said that freedom is not passed through the blood. It's not passed through the blood. And that's why we need people to stand up and do these things, because you're seeing a whole generation of people who don't know any different. They're being taught, we're finding out now that academics in school is not, it's not longer the 3 R's that used to be reading and writing and arithmetic. They're teaching all of this theory, critical race theory, and we need to be able to combat that with the truth. And it's not going to be passed, because it's not passed through the blood. These people are born to us, but just because we were living in freedom doesn't necessarily mean that they will. And so this is the reason why, as Leao said, I completely agree. We need to stand up and do whatever we can to stop this. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, no, well said. Well said. Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify what that quote was. Every act of compliance is building your child's prison. I'll just say it one more time. Every
act of compliance
is building your child's prison.
Yeah.
I mean, let that
that's
sink
right.
in.
Yeah. No, well said. Well said. You're absolutely right. And we're, especially as Christians, we fight for the future that will be here when we are not here, when we have left this place. And so we fight. If you've got kids, we fight for our kids, their kids, their friends' kids. If you don't have kids, we're fighting for the future of our people in order to be strong and safe and also free. I think we're in that sort of area. And I think what we did see definitely on Saturday was the mainstream media trying to take a narrative that things was happy, clapping and all that. But the footage, I firmly believe that the trans activists would have tried to, they would have killed Posey Parker if they'd been able to get to her. They would have head stomped her. I firmly believe they would have tried to head stomp her, first dropped her to the ground and then just rolled straight over her. That is absolutely what I believe. The viciousness, the utter hatred in their calls and their desire. If you look at the 360 overview camera, the video that takes a view over the top of the crowd, when she's been moved out, that mob surges, and it was quite a violent surge as well. They were screaming. You saw some of them try to pull over each other, jump over to get to Posey. You saw ones leaping in there, and if they couldn't get their physical fist into her face, you saw them put their head in and say, F you, F you, F. Just disgraceful. Some of the signage was about F turfs, some of it was kill turfs, some of it was stomp turfs. The male on the ship container, he was screaming out F turfs, F turfs, F turfs on his loudspeaker, leading the charge for it. And don't forget what happened when Posey Parker was finally able to be gotten into the police car and left. The male on top of that ship container started to call for another hunt. He called for the people there. He said, right, there's another anti-trans rally down at Aotea Square. Let's go, let's get there. Whipping them up into a furor. And this is the thing. There's incitement here. There is incitement for that violence that they effected. Are the police going to do anything about this disgrace thing? This is the idea of what the laws were supposed to be about. What if they're identifying as anything else, suddenly they get a pass? It was despicable, and it was only because of two tangata that their violence that they attempted to effect upon the families of men, women, and children in Aotea Square. It failed there because the men were not having a bar of it. They were going to protect the women, and they were going to protect the children who were there.
Yeah, Elliot, can I make a comment on that very point that you're bringing up? This is something that I think is being passed over by a lot of people. They don't talk enough about this. is the fact that just because you have your, for lack of another term, your penis cut off, does not necessarily mean that all of a sudden you become feminine. No, you still got that man strength. You still got that man energy. You still got that man viciousness. And so these people are walking around, and they got fake boobs, and but they still are men. They still basically are men, and they're over here creating all kinds of violence against women. That was a woman. That was a real woman, Posey Parker. I mean, she's got another name, but I mean, the point I'm trying to make is that when you're talking about viciousness and you're talking about violence, can you imagine a man just walking up and just a man walking up and punching somebody or doing stuff like that? I mean, especially against a woman, that's just wrong. That's just wrong. And too many people, just because we're giving them the term transgender, doesn't mean anything. Because the truth of the matter is, they're still men. These are still men. And when they're involved in these protests and they're over here pushing and shoving and punching and doing all those kinds of things, that's not a girl punching just because they're transgender. No, that's a man.
Yeah. Yeah, well said. Well said. I do want to bring out this little element here. This is, of course, oh gosh, Kelly J. That's her proper name, isn't it? Kelly J.
Yeah.
So Kelly J. Yep. Kelly G. Is it?
Jean.
Yeah.
So Kelly Jean. She was, of course, souped, and she was strong. She was. She's 5'1". She's a small, diminutive lady. But she was there to stand up for women's rights. She was there to stop. She said, no, the woman should be left alone. Stop going into the classrooms, going into the changing rooms. Stop going into the women's spaces, the areas that should be held for women. Stay out of the sports. And yet they wanted to attack her, shut her down. And yet she was able to really strongly able to stand there and do that. What's interesting is that with the person who attacked her was, I believe, Eli. Can't remember the surname. It was a male. My understanding is it was a male who wants to basically pretend to be a female. And what we have since discovered is, of course, bye Aotearoa. I'm leaving the country for a couple of weeks. I need to tan a bit.
Amazing.
Eli Rubashkin. This is the violent offender. This is the scumbag. Wants to jump in there, pretends anything. He has turned up with photos of Chris Hipkins. He's turned up with photos of, I believe, Marama Davidson. I even think with Chloe Strawbeck. So this is the person, and basically he's gapped the country. All right, so he's actually gapped the country. That's what he's done.
Shameful Labour government.
Coward, straight up coward. Yep. Very much a cowardly move, and I suppose not really much of a surprise. But that is the person right there. And look, Harry has also brought up something. Harry's absolutely right. Is that he works for Myriad Pharmaceuticals in Auckland. So as you guys know, I'm not big on the lines of thought that may be considered fringe. Now look at Liao. I can see Liao already with Liao's got that look on. So and so I don't, but I have to say it does seem to be a little bit of a convergence of ideologies that is very much opposed to free speech and the ideas of democracy and freedom.
Can I say something, Elliot?
You may.
Are you sure? Is this my right?
Where's the mute button? Where's the mute button?
Wow. Is that for you? So listen, Elliot. So both when the opposition was asked about what had happened, Laxon went straight to the free speech. The nothing about women. there was somebody else that was asked, and they said the same about free speech. Nothing about women. I just realized, and I should have realized because I've known this before, is that there is a minister of women. So, there's been nothing from her,
Yeah.
absolute silence from the Ministry of Women. You're muted, by the way. So I wanted to ask, what is her role? What the heck?
So wait. Who is the Minister of Women? Sorry. Oh my
Uh,
God, I cannot believe that I can't remember who it is.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, I didn't realize
Oh my gosh.
we have a Minister of Women, and her name is Jan Tinetti.
Jan Tinetti. Oh my gosh.
Minister for Women, the Honourable Jan Tinetti.
The Honourable.
Since the 6th of November 2020. Okay. I want to know what her job is and what her role is if she's not going to stand up for women. She should be fired too, along with Marama Davidson.
Yeah. Extraordinary, just extraordinary. Utterly useless. I think this is also isn't Jan Tinetti also the education minister, the current education minister?
Yes, Honourable.
How incompetent do you actually have to be in the Labour cabinet? It's like it's a competition to see how incompetent you are.
Yes.
Very incompetent.
Yeah. It's nearly as if you've got to be the opposite of your portfolio. You've actually got to suck so much. You've got to be so incompetent at what you're supposed to be doing. That's the way in which they choose you to be it. I mean, what Marama Davidson's the minister for reduction in sexual violence. And what did you say? White people,
white men. I would just
white men,
white
cis men.
Yeah.
No, we're not going to use the word cis. It's ridiculous. They are white men. I am married to one. I want to talk to her. I was like, how dare you? He's the most gentle man that I know. You can't say that is the blame for it. Like, lady, you don't know what you're talking about. In fact,
and actually, you're right. She doesn't.
She wouldn't even apologize for what she said. And so if that's the kind of caliber we have in government, they need to go this year. Guys, stop voting for rubbish. Okay? Because that's what you get.
And I think this is something with our Pacifica people we need to be able to make sure. Sorry, Fuaba, go for it.
No, I was just going to say that just riding off of what Leao said, that this is the very point that I was trying to make last week when I said we need to speak out when they're attacking anyone of any race other than ourselves, like I remember you said something like, Pacifica are able to do certain things that white people are not allowed to do. Yeah, well, if that's the case, then what we need to do is we need to protect our white brothers and sisters. So whenever they start doing that kind of thing, attacking them, we need to stand up and try to help them and speak on their behalf, because we're all in the same boat. Unfortunately, these people don't see it, but we all know this, that, after they get done with the white folks, they're going to start doing the other folks. And then after that, eventually they'll get down to us. And there will be no one else over there to protect us. So, the thing is that we all need to do this together because we are one people. Yeah. And
no, well said.
That's the point that I wanted to bring across, is that it's necessary for us that now that Marama Davidson has actually attacked white, and she doesn't want to say the word cis, but that's what Marama used, white cis men. Then we need to be able to stand up and say something about that.
Yeah. There are also rumors, but they're just rumors at this stage. But she did seem like she was a little bit high, so I wouldn't be surprised if she was. I wouldn't be surprised. But she did. There were rumors that she was high. I saw the photos of that motorcycle. It's like, no, come on! Oh, it ran into you. Word, bro. Ran into you.
Listen, that prime minister needs to actually find footage of what actually happened instead
Yeah.
of just taking what she had to say.
Yeah.
If
Right.
you're going to be the prime minister and you're going to speak facts, you need to speak facts. You
Yeah.
can't just make it up as you go. Oh, I think as she was walking, she was hit. No, there was it was an hour or so after she was walking down the road. She didn't. I mean, where did she go for medical attention if she was there during that time? Come up with what actually happened and don't make it up and don't listen to just her. Seriously, this is our
Oh, it's
prime minister
insane.
we're talking about.
But don't forget that the Prime Minister himself, Chris Hipkins, in absolute aligning with Jacinda Ardern, heavily incompetent, with the COVID minister. We all know what a disaster that was. The fact is, we're going to be paying for it. Our children are going to be paying for it. Their children are going to be paying for this nonsense. He also was the Minister of Education. Education has now become a race-filled, gender ideological cesspool. Where basically children are being. And the police minister. How pointless are the police currently? It is absolutely shocking. The at this stage. You know what they should have said? Maybe what they should have said is that the trans crowd are unvaccinated. Maybe they could have said that, and the police might have actually taken a little bit more in-depth control. But they probably would have slammed them down on the ground and gone straight to batons. But the absence of the police, the destructive force of the education system, where we are at crisis levels, that our children are not learning their literacy levels. The fact that we've got a record that we are now starting to break records in terms of our illiteracy. The fact that some of our children are illiterate, higher numbers than before. And not only that, we had over the last couple of days, we've been getting the information on the DHB, not DHBs now, Te Whatuora, which I don't know, is it the Māori side or the non-Māori side? We don't know. You're supposed to, if you get a referral for a CAT scan or some sort of surgical need, they're supposed to be approximately 90% seen within, and I might be wrong here, within about a month and a week or something like that, something like 30 to some days. And what they found is that under Labour, of course, now it's something like 35-ish%, not 90%. And these are people who are dying on this. The absolute inept incompetence of this useless government is extraordinary and breathtaking. The fact that you've got people voting or supporting Labour at all is nearly insane. I think it's nearly psychologically of a psychological concern to us that people are voting for such a incompetent government, objectively incompetent. I just cannot believe it. I think that when we do look at some of the angles of this, I just wanted to bring up something as well, is that they were saying that there was no violence and that things were all good in the hood and, no worries, I just want to bring up just one little element here as well. Oh, there we go. All right, this is just in that surge. All right, part of that surge in there. Look at that. They're eagerly trying to gain to her. You can't even see her, but she's at the mid-top. On the left-hand side, I believe that is the drag queen is... on that left-hand side, I believe that drag queen is called Tiffany Sapphire or something like that. That drag queen actually fully pushed basically a forearm smash into the face of a older gentleman. There was also the 70-year-old who was smashed full on into the face. She ended up with a big black eye. And you even had the other older lady there she was just trying to talk to someone, a reporter, and people were screaming in her face.
You know what? it was there was so much anger. There was you could feel it in the air, even as they were trying to come around us and pressure us out. You could feel the anger. You know at any point. Same with us. If we had fallen, they would have trampled on us. There's just no mistaking that. That is what they wanted to do. They wanted almost like they wanted blood. It was
Mm.
like someone needs to sacrifice for how we're feeling today, and it's going to be
Mm.
you, and it's going to be you. We're going to make sure you get out of here so we can work, work on the next person. I have never seen anything like it before in my
Yep.
life to that extent.
Yeah, neither have I. It's absolutely extraordinary. Of course, here we go. With those who very well, it does seem to be that this male is the person who has whipped the frothing crowd into an absolute fury. Chanel Lal. What does he say? He says, "You ran away, you coward turf. Don't mess with us ever again." You know, extraordinary. And he pretended, absolutely pretended, as if he was in fear of his life and all this absolute nonsense. It's disgraceful. Basically, a cry bully, someone who pretends as if he's oh my gosh, I'm afraid, and all this sort of nonsense. And yet he was utterly brutal with it. He was, and I recall that he was also saying that the turfs have suddenly locked themselves into a cage, and it's time to go get them. Now, I want to make sure that I show that so that I can sort of show you what I mean by that. But this is also Chanel Lau. He's put up there, a small group of turfs have caged themselves in as thousands of counter-protesters are outnumbering them. Cannot hear a single turf. Get here now. Albert Park, Auckland, you stunner. Don't bother telling me that he was in fear for his life. Don't bother that.
Oh, he was smiling.
Yeah.
He had. There was quite a few selfies of him grinning. Yes, he does work for the Herald, Karen. I think he's a columnist. He does a column on there.
Yes, that's right. He is. He's a columnist. Also, they Stuff do like him. I believe that they share his stuff as well. So there is basically he is a bit of a darling of the hard left mainstream media. This is what I mean. This is utterly disgusting. This is a fermenting of New Zealand. Because overseas they are a lot more intelligent in their journalism. Their journalism is a lot more basic. News Hub were probably at the main center of this area, but they were just utterly shocking. How do you get to this level of just absolute hatred? All right, Gauri's Gamaran. Imagine calling yourself a feminist as you speak at a Destiny Church rally with aggro, racist misogynists protecting you. Mate, what are you talking about? This is the person who defended a literal war criminal. She was quite horrific. She refuses to stand up for the woman. Refuses to. Straight off. Disgusting. There's even this one. This one came out from the university. All right, this came out to the University of Engineering. We understand that the visit to New Zealand of KJK Minshall may cause distress. This is engineering, by the way. This is not psychology. It's not the human sciences, which are just so woke that they are their own resilience is absolute junk. This is actually engineering. This is engineering. All right. Any student needs assistance, please reach out to the Queer Rights Officer at Crow, blah, 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 blah. We're committed to supporting all our engineering students, including our transgender and gender diverse students. We reject hate and intolerance towards any group of people, except for women. All right. So they're supporting also in that regard. There we go. Raori Taonui. Hey, anointed and disappointed.
Oh,
yep.
That guy.
This guy here, he pretends like he cares, but come on, look at him, anointed, disappointed. Ha ha ha. He also made a tomato sauce joke later on as well, and it reminded me of when I've seen jokes when a male has bashed a woman, and then they make a kitchen joke towards her. Hey, she shouldn't be so lippy. See, that's what happens when you get out of the kitchen. Some sort of humor like that. I found Raori's humor to be in that regard. Gori's Gamarin to fight Nazis. I couldn't when I
Yeah,
saw this one.
yeah, you came and fought me. That's it.
Mm. Yeah,
Because
that's it.
I look like a Nazi, and you can tell me to go home, which is just
Yep.
around the corner.
Well, you know what? I couldn't even. I couldn't. I was even thinking, why? What are you going to punch yourself in the face? Golrees is going to punch herself in the face. Is that what she's going to do? And
Do you know
oh,
what I see, Elliot and Fuyabai, is that what this did was unearth what was already there.
yeah,
You have to realize that this isn't just a frenzy. This
yep,
has been bubbling under the surface for a long time. And in fact, when that billboard went up in Wellington about what a woman is, it had to be taken down,
yep,
and you look at it, you look back at it now and go, this has been the build up, and the frenzy has been where that's where we are now.
mm,
We're at this point where, actually, thank you, Posey Parker, for exposing exactly um, how things are in New Zealand, and
mm,
unfortunately, the whole world can see it now. And
mm,
what do we do about it now? What do we do now? We realize, are we going to go and hide back in our little corners and go, oh, I'm sure, things will sort themselves out? Or are we going to start speaking out about this?
yep,
Because
Yeah.
they become more feral, and the thing is nothing's going to be enough. And that's why we went from, hey, it's okay to be fafa, you can do that, you're good in entertainment, uh, to now we've got them in our libraries to kids. Like, how did it, where did it, where, at what point did it change to now it's not enough, we're going for your children?
yep. Yep. No, well said. Well said. I've just been crossing through there also, just to let you know, and just to let you know, this Crimson Starlight, it gets me off watching the fear in Posey Parker's eyes. She also released some also horrific things, but the signage was calling for the death of those people who believe those women. It was calling for the death as well. And you're right. So I guess, is this a turning point? And I think this is what you're sort of saying on is, well, no one, I don't think anyone's speaking about this beyond, and even ACT are utilizing it very well for their own benefit. That's their thing. That's fine. But there's no one, as far as I can see, who's standing up against the transgenderism, that the extreme radical transgenderism that is gaining access or has gained access to your children, that is taken over elements of the woman spaces. You got your Laura Hubbard and things like that. Okay, and you're right, Liao. So what do we do? What should we do? What is it? What do we do? Fuyava, what do you think? This is they're not. So I think what's firstly, I think we finally, us three here have been warning for quite some time. I think finally New Zealanders have finally woken up to this. They're not stopping. The transgenderism ideology has already gained access to your children, as we said that it would in 2010. We said they were about to get access to your children. That's fine. We lost that battle. They gained access to the children. Now they're gaining access to the mainstream media. They've gained access to it looks like the laws. And they're also now basically being left or ignored or being dismissed by police as well. Okay, what do we do now? For you, do you have any ideas for our Kiwis who've finally gotten it?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, the LGBTQ community is the movement is something that's only recently been around. We've always had we've always had gays in our communities for the longest, since forever. This type of attitude that these as activists and doing what they're doing. this is something that's in the last 20, maybe less than 20 years, we're starting to see all of this take place. But the point I'm trying to make is that it's because of tolerance. People have tolerated this type of behavior. We started off with politically correct language, and we came from there. Everything has been tolerated by us. People who don't like to have to cause problems, to stir any controversy, and because of this tolerance, this is what these people have been doing. They've been pushing back and pushing us, and now they're in to a large extent they're in authority positions of authority, and because of that, now we're able to see what takes place when the keys are handed over to them, because they complained so much about us, how we were dealing with them before, and now we give them the keys, and now you see what's taking place. And I think that people need to stop tolerating this stuff. It's time.
Okay, so what does that look like? What does that look like? Not tolerating the stuff.
Not tolerating it means that people need to be able to stand up and speak out and to protest. And when it comes down to it, I was about to say about labor, those people who are thinking about labor being a part of, part of the government, you cannot be a part of the solution if you are a part of the problem. Labor is part of the problem. They're the ones who are helping these people to get these positions of influence. They're the ones who are putting these people there. So how the hell are you going to expect these people to now all of a sudden, be able to help change things around? No, things are bad right now. And thanks to labor, they've been a part of it. So let's not include them in the solution. They should not even be considered.
So
this is part of it.
So just if I'm hearing you correctly, what you reckon we should do is stop tolerating the constant push from the transgenderism radicals, and that we should be basically going around imploring, especially Pacifica, to stop voting for Labour.
Oh, that's
right.
Definitely,
gotcha. Okay. All right. Leah, what do you think?
What country has just taken over? Where the farmers have created a party and are now in government?
I believe that's the Dutch, Denmark.
Yeah,
Denmark? Netherlands.
We need something like that. To be fair.
Yeah.
Who is that?
We need people passionate
That's
enough.
That's the BBB party.
Do you know what, Elliot? We're just not hungry enough. I'm sorry. We're not hungry enough for this. We still can live a relatively good life right now. But when the food shortages really start to happen and really starts to hit your pocket, when the interest rates go to levels that we cannot afford to pay our mortgages, we are going to be crying out for solutions. Right now, it's like, let's just discuss it, while we still have a relatively, I'm saying, normal existence. When these things start to really hit, they're going to have to look for leaders who will take up that mantra and actually start to lead the country. And whatever it's going to take that.
So you mean, so you're saying we have to wait for pain to bite into our people's natural resistance to really engage in anything, that we still want to do our she'll be right thing, and we need to wait for the pain.
It's deeply embedded in us. Deeply embedded in us. And so unless you, like someone has said, this battle isn't flesh and blood, it's a spiritual battle. Unless we dig into the actual foundations of God and what he's talked about what's going to happen in the book of Revelation, sorry, spoiler alert, that's what's going to happen, then we are going to have to take pain for us to change. It's going to have to. But right now, we're still laid back. We're still just discussing this. We're still in this place where we're like, oh my gosh, do you believe what just happened? Of course, this is all par for the course. You've been saying
Yeah.
this for years, Elliot. You've been saying it for years, and I'm just like, I just like my forehead. Anyway,
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. You're absolutely right. Yep, yeah, yeah, yeah. And I hope you're wrong. Perhaps that's what's allowed me to carry on for these last probably half a dozen years, trying to push. I mean, like I said to many people, probably the first time I got really, really political, very, very political, would have been about 2014, 15, when I saw that National were starting to change the youth laws to make it so that there was occurrences rather than actually charging the escalation of violence by young people. So the numbers look good. Well, Labour have been using it then. Yeah, I tend to lean towards what you guys are saying. Liao, I agree. I think, unfortunately, it's going to take more pain before more New Zealanders wake up and smell that coffee. And I think if we are, yeah, you're right. We've got to get that message out there. Stop voting for Labour. Labour aren't your friends. They are quite horrific in terms of their policies and their outcomes. Their outcomes are just really bad. I personally think, and I love, for example, I love my mother-in-law, but we had not an argument. We had a discussion about church, and I need to chill out because there are some good pastors out there. You know, Stephen Miller, who's a pastor in Manurewa, great guy, strong guy. But I think a lot of our churches are weak. They are cowardly. And I don't know if they're cowardly because they justify the abdication from society by using whatever Hebrews, James, whatever scripture they can use and make them feel better about it. But they have absolutely abandoned us in when we need to fight for things where they didn't used to. The churches of old never used to. They used to be strong, stalwart defenders of the society that Christians built, which is the Western society, Western culture. I just want to bring up something that...
Can I just say,
Go for it.
You know, I had a pastor who cared about us so much that he wanted to protect us from everything that was happening. So he made us really insular, so that everything we did together. Everything that we studied together. We only hung out with each other. I mean, that does sound very cult-like, but this was how, in his mind, was his solution to how we were going to get through this. But the problem is the church is the only institution that is made for the outsider. So I'm sorry, that just doesn't fly. Like we were meant to be able to share what we have in the gospel, the light, instead of trying to drag people into the church. We need to be out there. We need to be the church in our communities.
Well, I think human-wise, we need our leaders. Our church leaders need to be out there. The fact is, there's a reason why most churches are run by or led by one person as an Episcopal. It's a pastor who leads them. It's because human beings, we have a natural affinity towards a one-person leadership role. And so the fact is, the church needs to get their finger out of their rear end and actually stand up and actually take a stance in life, because in their vacuum, it has been these other ideologies that have totally taken it. So I just wanted to show this one here from Natasha Wanihi. Sex education in New Zealand includes teaching preschool children about masturbation, anal sex to primary age children. That is actually correct. Natasha, you're absolutely correct. It's basically also based from some resources that they utilize. That's where you'll find some of the masturbation, anal sex. They also were talking about flavors, actually, of oral sex as well. And again, this was resources that the small children could find as well. And they can change their gender, mutilate their little bodies to change sex with puberty blockers that sterilize them. Absolutely correct. And parents are not notified. So when, for example, when you hear the narrative, it's just a pause in puberty. Do not believe them. Do not believe it. And the main reason why you don't believe them, because there is absolutely zero study out there at any longitudinal degree, which means that there's no study. There is zero studies. Don't believe them when they tell you their studies. There are no studies that show long-term usage of puberty blockers. Half the time, many of the chemicals they use are also used as part of the ingredients for chemical castration of rapists. So make no mistake, there is no long-term study of how these affect the children at all. And don't forget, very clearly, nearly the entirety of young people and children who suffer from gender identity disorder, they come to accept it if given decent quality, and not even heavy duty, just decent quality counseling for a little while, and they come in line. And they might turn homosexual or whatever, but do not start chopping off their penis. Don't start chopping off their breasts. Don't start giving them sterilization drugs. It just doesn't make any sense whatsoever. So Natasha, you're absolutely right. And by the way, this is what's happening now, right? And I think some of you out there have heard me explain the history of where gender ideology comes from, the fact that it was tied up even in pedophilic research, and the fact that even John Money himself, he got the original case members for his original study. He had them brother and brother, made one brother look female, made a little vagina, and actually had them simulate sex acts upon each other whenever he went over there. You're talking about a filthy, depraved one. And this is not even... This is taught in university. They utilize the data from it. You talk about the ethics around utilization of Nazi experiments. I mean, this is right in line. This is right in line with it. It's absolutely disgusting. Just to put up here, some real quick fire ones, team. Do you guys have any thoughts on Winston? Liao, what do you think? Just any quick thoughts on Winston? And this is obviously this is in the context of, can he defend against this?
I think he's been saying all the right things. I've been quite impressed with what he's been saying lately. And this guy's going to live forever at this point. He's incredible at being relevant for the things that matter to people, and then he disappears. It's like, hello, Winston, are you there?
Oh, so true. He does disappear.
He does. He does this all the time. So, I mean, for an old guy, he's saying some really, really relevant and stuff that people won't say. So, I want to give him, a little bit of credit today.
Yep.
Which
fair enough.
I don't give him
tell me
very often.
Okay, so while we're there, which party brought in the relationship sexual education? Which party brought in the gender ideology, the pure one? Does anyone know, and not just for us, for our panelists, but also out there, does anyone know out there who released the policy of the gender ideology that we now have coursing through our children right now?
I don't think it was Labour.
Very good. It was not Labour.
No, it wasn't. They're just so good at playing it out.
Oh, they are. They really are. Do you know Fuyama?
No,
I think Liao might get it soon.
If you say national, then I'm going to be.
No, not national. But national. The problem with national is that the national won't do anything about it.
Right.
That's the main problem with him.
Was it ACT?
No, not ACT. But
don't tell me it was New Zealand first.
It was New Zealand first. Oh my God.
I take back everything I just said about him. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm taking it all back. I'm so
now,
sorry.
to be fair, it wasn't Winston himself. It was Tracy Martin who really fought and brought it out. But make no mistake, it was New Zealand first.
Okay.
Oh, I see we've had some good comments in there. Karen Shaw, Greens, Steph, Greens, Karen. all of you guys.
I know, Karen, I'm with you.
Fair enough.
I gave him listen to this. I like this one. Winston Peters, New Zealand's greatest politician until he was voted in. I love that, Chris. High five for me.
Camilla.
He just had a moment that he was actually Prime Minister when Jacinda went to have her baby. Yep. And
oh wow.
to have a baby, and just for a moment he got what he probably wanted his whole life. Political life was to be, Prime Minister.
Well, don't forget, I mean, because who was it? Robert Muldoon actually, I wouldn't say prophesied, but he actually said that Winston was going to be New Zealand's first Māori Prime Minister. So in a way, he was. It wasn't a perfect separate. He was acting, but by technicality, he was. I guess it's technically, but I don't know. So Madeline, wasn't it Greens? Well, no, Fred not.
I
Make no
think
mistake, they would have
Hey,
been there, but
Madeline.
I think if they vote Labour in again, I think they'll see the first Māori Prime Minister.
Mhm.
who would that be?
oh, hang on. Someone in the basement. Yeah.
Oh, no, I don't think so. I actually don't think so. No, Nanaya has she's got very deep links into an empire currently. She doesn't need it. Her power is extraordinarily massive. She's already worked at it. Her family are in different strategic spots around the democratic power of New Zealand. She doesn't need to. Arguably, she's got more power than that. Jacinda was never going to be able to do anything about it. Neither can Chris Hipkins, neither can anyone else, as far as I can see. And Nanaia Mahuta is more powerful than many people quite understand. I think they still seem to think that she's a Māori leader from Waikato. I do not think they quite understand what it is. And you know what? And I'm very proud that you had Kramer, the Twitter handle, who released the expose on the Mahuta Empire, and I was very proud that it was actually Daily Examiner that was the first media organization to release it out there. So I thought that was really, really awesome. But make no mistake, she doesn't need it. She's got a lot of power in other areas. I think
That was really shocking about New Zealand First.
I know. Look, everyone's.
We're like, really? I said
but
one
don't
thing
forget,
nice about him, and you wanted to pull the rug out.
I had that in my pocket, and I just stuck it out there.
You played it.
And don't forget that this is also the party who New Zealand First is supposed to be New Zealand First, but don't forget that New Zealand First basically were the ones to sign the UN Migration Compact. It was Winston Peters who signed it. This is the compact that says no matter where you are, wherever you're doing, if you can get to New Zealand illegally, well, we'll sort you out with social welfare, with a job, with a place to live, everything that a citizen has rights to, and you don't have to work at trying to be a citizen. You just need to get here illegally, and it's absolutely fine. And that's the pledge that he signed up. And when did he admit that to the New Zealand people? Don't forget, this is Winston Peters, the man of the people. Winston Peters admitted that he signed the UN Migration Compact on I'm pretty sure it's 2018 or 2019, but I think it's 2018. So on 2018, on the last hour of the last day of Parliament sitting for the year before everyone went off on holiday for Christmas. And you can't make this stuff up. He admitted it, and it wasn't even out. It was like 45 minutes out of the finish of the year. He admitted it in one short sentence, and I can't remember exactly. I'm paraphrasing. He said something like, "I've signed the UN Migration Compact," and I think it was as short and sweet as that. And then they moved on, saying some waiata. You had some last messages about, have a great holiday to everyone, blah, 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 blah. He admitted it in the last hour of the last day of Parliament sitting so that Kiwi families would not remember it because they had to have holidays. That's Winston Peters.
And that's the danger. That's the danger of having a career politician. The fact that you have someone who's been in the Parliament for that long, that's just like what's happening in the U.S. government when you have people who are in the government for too long. At some point, even regardless as to what their motives were at the beginning, at some point they become corrupt, because the system in and of itself is corrupt. And so, you're all about trying to get that power and consolidate that power. And I think, Winston Peters actually had that moment where he faced the temptation, and in my opinion, he's fallen. And so this is what I have to say about Winston Peters, because New Zealand First is, like you said, it's supposed to be about New Zealand First, but it's now in a lot of people. They say this as a joke, so I'm not just saying this as from myself.
I know what you're gonna say.
Yeah, it's Winston First.
Yep.
Winston First.
But it always has been, and yeah.
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that's the danger of these career politicians. Yeah,
Mm.
sorry
What I was
about
going
that,
to
Leo.
say is in 2020, I actually went to one of his. He had a he came to speak in Kelston. So one of my friends stood up and said, "Why did you sign the immigration compact?"
Right.
And he said, "Oh no, no, don't be silly. You just listening to the media. They just throw things around." And she said, "No, why? Why did you sign it?" Oh, it wasn't actually. Was it me? Oh, just things like this. I can't remember that. Like he literally he fumbled his way and wouldn't even answer. So she just
I
wanted to
think
know
it's also
why did you sign
yeah,
it?
because his usual mo, and this is where he's really good at. He used to be in the 90s, in the 80s, in the 80s and 90s. He was powerful, and he was powerful because he was able to sniff out corrupt practices of the government and bring it out to light. And at that point, he was actually quite good. He was quite good at it. The wine box, and the Cook Islands tax schemes, and the various things that he was able to find out about. But more recently, he's sort of just he knows what people want to hear. Puava is absolutely right. He's a career politician, but more than that, he is New Zealand's consummate politician. He is the oldest, longest serving politician that New Zealand has ever had. He is a record holder, and he deserves that right because he speaks really well. The problem is that unfortunately it's about him. And let's not kid ourselves. All politicians, even when I was engaged in politics, it was there was ego involved. But and I think Fuiawa it was quite nearly dead on the money. I think with him, with St. Peters, he's just ended up utilizing his skills that he was good at to sound good in the ears of the people. But the problem is that politics has become quite corrupt to the point where we no longer have that we talk about personality politics and basically deception and lies. That truth is no longer more important than political perception, and that is what politics is now. It's political, or rather it is perception over truth. That's where we are with politics. So it is quite a disastrous one. You know what? I think we need to start kicking the can up. And I've been a bit, just to know, just to the audience out there, Liao's been giving me hell about, she's always been like, why are we doing merchandise? Why aren't we getting some good stuff out there because we've got some great people who want to write some good stuff onto stuff, just, to basically sell it around and to share the information that what we have. That's my fault. I'll put my hand up to that one. So I think we'll start engaging in that. Let's kick up a stink. Let's have a bit of fun with this. This is also what I think. I think let's have fun in poking the woke bear. Yeah, let's do it. Many of us who have been cancelled already, we have lost so many things. The lockdown, we lost so many things through it. Let's not get too angry about that. Instead, let's start poking the woke bear. All right, let's make a laugh out of it, and let's enjoy ourselves when we do that. So, stay tuned to what we're doing. I think we're going to do it. I'm finally revved up. We'll get some creative juices flowing.
Thank
All right.
you, God.
All right, fine. So we will. We're going to do it. Let's have a bit of fun with this as well, eh? Let's not get all. Let's get and then hee. Okay.
You know
And
what?
the Pacific Girls.
What I think is really amazing about Islanders is that we know how to laugh about each other. We can laugh at you, we can laugh at ourselves. So why don't we take the humor and use the gift that God's given us, and let's get some humorous antidotes out there and start actually speaking it out, speaking the truth in humor.
Yep.
Imagine that. Imagine the way people would be able to handle that.
No. Dead on. Liao, look, we've had a great time tonight. It's gone to nearly 90 minutes, hour and a half, far out. Liao, could you please send us off in a bit of a prayer? And we're gonna have a bit of fun for this. So, all good. All right, but God bless you guys all.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
Go for it.
can I just make this one last comment, please? And it's I don't know if you guys will agree with me, but I think this is something that's long overdue. It's someone who deserves to get their flowers, so to speak. You know, when we're talking about flowers, that means they should be recognized. Um, when you were talking about what happened with Posey Parker and everything, you said that if it wasn't for Man Up being there, that it could have gotten a lot worse.
Yep.
And, you know, Man Up has been involved with all kinds of different things. In fact, Bishop Brian Tamaki, he was the guy who initiated the whole thing when the lockdowns took place. He was over there bringing the guys from Man Up and everyone from Destiny Church to help to initiate that process where people were starting to speak out, which eventually led to the what you call the convoy and all those people going down to Parliament. And they were even involved with that. The point that I wanted to make is that, you know, there's a lot of people that, you know, you can say what you will about the man, but, you know, I think he deserves credit. You were talking earlier about pastors not standing up, not speaking out. Well, this guy's been standing up. He even went to jail because he stood up and he spoke out.
Yep, fair enough.
You know,
fair enough.
So this is the reason why before we close tonight, I just want to make sure, because I saw Madeline pop up her name, and you know, I told Madeline that I would make a comment regarding, and so that's the reason why I want to be able to say, hey, let's recognize Bishop Tamaki for what he's done, and you know, I'm not gonna be joining the church or anything like that. That's not the point that I'm trying to make. But I am trying to. Yeah, I'm trying to say, you know, you got to give credit where credit is due. As much as we've been kind of like criticizing certain folks, but there are some folks who've actually deserved credit. And so this is the reason why I don't think we've actually said anything specifically until tonight, when you actually brought it up when you said that.
Fair enough. Credit was due.
So I'm going to say
Man Up, we're there. Yep.
Yeah, and when the flooding took place, these guys went all the way out there, and they were helping in the flooding that took place in other parts of the country. And you know, they're putting the money where their mouth is. You know, a lot of people talk and they don't do what they say, but you know, these people have actually stepped up. And so I just want to make sure that before we end tonight, being as it's kind of like connected to what you were talking about. Yeah, let's give these guys credit.
Yeah, well said, and absolutely fair enough. All right, Liao, would you be able to send us off there?
Sure. God, just want to say thank you for being with us and being in our conversations. And God, you know how this land can be healed. You know how we can come together as people and stand next to each other, arm in arm, to push back on this crazy madness that is starting to slowly filter through to our children. God, you know the answers, and we just ask you to show us in creative ways how we can stand and push back. We ask you for your help. We ask you, God, for your hand to be on this as we continue to seek you to help us through this, Lord. Only you know the future. You are who you have been in the future. And so we ask you for your help and how we can push back. So we thank you for this conversation. Thank you for everyone that's been listening and being part of this, Lord. We pray that you will keep us safe until we come back together. We pray these things in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen. All right. God bless you all. We'll see you real soon.